Hello, nerds, and welcome to the Engadget podcast. This is the last episode of the year. I'm pretty excited. Cherlynn is also very excited and using this opportunity to make Dana uncomfortable.
I'm going to say that line again. You both have very nice mouths today. I changed it a little bit.
A little bit.
To be clear, that is not what she said offline.
Yeah, offline it was
It's like
much,
a
much
G-rated
worse.
version of what she said offline.
Yeah, because it's, we're on air now.
Yeah, once we get off the air,
Then
though,
it's-
Dana's going to have to report you to HR. You know that, right?
Well,
By the way, joining me, Cherlynn Low, reviews editor,
I'm sad now. Hi.
and Dana Wollman, managing editor.
Hello.
This is Dana's day off. Dana is technically on vacation.
So far in my vacation, I have packed for CES. I have written part of a laptop review, which I will continue after this, and here on the podcast. And I was also watching marathons of HGTV and hating everyone on every episode. So I really know how to vacation.
You are an expert vacationer.
Killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killing
You've also
it.
been like replying to my emails and Slacks, not just mine.
Oh yeah,
but,
I'm not.
yeah,
I've not
it's
given up
just
on
been-
email at all.
To be clear, Dana doesn't know how to do vacation at all. She has no clue.
Okay, we'll see.
Also, to be clear, this is not my fault. Dana was coming into the office anyway. I did not
Sure.
call her in to do the podcast during her
Sure.
vacation.
This is true.
She was coming in to do a review video regardless.
You did call me in from my non-vacation to do
Yeah,
this
well,
podcast.
you're working. You are not on vacation.
You were doing your job.
I was doing my job.
Yeah.
Darn it. Okay.
So, you guys excited that this year is finally winding down? We're getting ready to head off to CES on New Year's Day. That's how we're going to kick off 2017.
I'm at the point where I'm slightly excited about my trip to Vegas. I know it's going to fade, and I'm going to regret saying that, but right now I'm a little excited for CES.
I'm first of all excited that we don't do Flame Wars today because
Yes.
that is a pain in the butt. But let's be real. But I am kind of excited. It's my first CS with Engadget.
Yep.
It's gonna be beautiful.
It's gonna be a thing.
It's I hope there's no hazing or I hear there's a lot of free snacks.
Right, snacks in the trailer. That's all you need to
Yeah.
think about.
There's no hazing unless you count getting yelled at by me like at pre-show events hazing.
Are you going to do that to me though? I don't think you are.
I mean-
I don't think you have the balls to yell at me.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I mean, you do a pretty good job. You don't give me much reason to yell.
Not yet.
Dana, on the other hand.
Me?
Will Dana yell at me? Whatever you.
Me? Yell? Moi?
Actually, I don't think Dana's ever yelled in my entire time.
Actually, I was
of
implying
working
that I
with
would
her.
yell at Dana, but
Oh, well then.
I actually don't think I've ever done that. Dana
I don't
terrifies
think-
me.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, if you're not going to yell at me, you're less likely to yell at her. Like, come on.
So as you mentioned, though, we are not doing Flame Wars today. We are
So
doing,
excited.
We're just going to talk a little bit. Last week we covered all of the winners of 2016. We're doing our big year in review coverage. You should be covering, following all of that stuff on the site, the listeners, viewers, all that stuff. Really great stuff going up. This week is all about the losers of 2016.
Is that why we're here, though? Like, because we're the...
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I'm the
why I
loser?
opted out of the winners episode.
Because you're not a winner?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
the
I see
least
that.
winnerist on.
Definitely.
The
yeah.
staff.
You
Least
wrote,
winnerist?
Yeah.
Yes, least winnerist.
Well, it's the last week of the year. We'll let him have one. too.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
I don't know
Cherlynn's
if
the least winningest. Okay.
Yeah, and then you're the least winnerist.
Yeah.
And I'm Mount Everest. What's going on?
What?
My brain is just
It's just gone.
yeah.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
So we got a whole bunch of stuff going up on the site. You should go read all of it. One of the articles, I don't know if it'll be up by the time the podcast goes up, but is all about Yahoo's year in review. We're going to skip that today because I spent the last episode I was on, not the last episode because
2
I was
weeks
out
ago.
sick, but 2 weeks ago, yelling and cursing about Yahoo. So if you want to see Terrence drop a lot of F-bombs and just throw his hands up in frustration, go watch that episode, episode 18. We both go down together. Oh, I did not open the show with the title of this episode.
Do it now.
I'm failing at my job, guys. I am a terrible host.
It's an everyday thing with you. It's fine.
Yeah, somebody should fire me when this is over. So this is episode 20. I can't stand up for falling down. And yeah, we're going to be looking back at some of the saddest stories, in a way, of the year. Let's start with one of the biggest garbage fires, Twitter.
Yes. Yes.
So, God, where do we even start with Twitter? Dana, where do you think we should start?
It's such a garbage fire that it drove away all of its potential suitors.
Yes, that is a true thing. So,
And now it's up to Twitter to fix itself. And
I'm not entirely sure they know how to do that. Do you?
right.
Then just like a whole bunch of executives leave that company too, right? Their COO, their chief, like their vice
It's the most
president of
recent thing,
product.
yeah.
Yeah. So, how many companies were in the running to purchase them?
At least 5. There was like Google, Salesforce, Microsoft, Disney,
Yeah.
Verizon.
Disney, which sort of most notable of all, was like, wait a minute, Twitter has a trolling problem. This might be off-brand for us. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, and to be clear, Twitter is like a giant company with a giant user base. It's, by most measures, fairly successful.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have an issue finding a buyer.
I think it was more like an internal debate for them whether or not they wanted to sell in the first place. And there were reports that, like, first of all, yeah, they had a lot of people disagreeing whether they should be sold. Like, I think the founder, Jack, didn't want to sell, but most of the other C-suite executives were like, no, we should sell. So I think that's the main problem. Rather than, like, ability to find someone to buy, it's more of desire.
I think that sort of mirrors an identity crisis they're already having, right? Are they a social network? Are they a video streaming company?
Or are they just a media company in general?
Yes.
Just similar debate going on at Facebook.
Facebook, yeah.
Right. I mean, if they can't decide that, here's the thing. If they can't decide that, how do they know what their priorities should be?
True.
And above all, certainly fixing the trolling problem has not been a priority.
Yeah.
It is not.
Yeah.
So between not being able to decide whether or not they want to sell themselves and ultimately not being able to find a suitor, having no idea what they are, and I think there's been some mixed messaging around what they should be. At some point, I believe Jack Dorsey said something about how they are a news organization, theoretically. Although I don't know how you run a news organization without reporters and journalists, but hey, whatever.
Sure.
That's small, minor detail. But yeah, I think probably the biggest problem for them all year has been this trolling thing. That's abuse and harassment has been like a gargantuan problem for them for a couple of years now, and it doesn't seem like they've really taken it seriously.
I think this, for me, links to another issue, not to so quickly jump away from your issue, but the thing is, between Facebook and Twitter, they're sort of similar, but Facebook has like a much wider and more diverse user base than Twitter does. Twitter's basically stuck to people who are really into the internet, and that, like, a majority of that population is trolls. Like, people who spend most of their lives on the internet are mostly going to be like happy sending bad comments on sites. So
To be clear, I think Twitter had this trolling problem, has had it for a while. I mean, since even before Gamergate, which was not a 2016 phenomenon. But I think this year, people like Leslie Jones sort of gave a human, famous, recognizable face to this victimization and harassment that's been going on.
So, do you think things are only getting worse now at the end of the year, or are they starting to figure it out?
Twitter has rolled out some tools for people to use. So something is better than nothing. You could argue, too, that it's too little too late. More specifically, I would say that some of the tools they've rolled out seem to be more reactive than preventative. So if you're taking advantage of these tools, you probably are already being harassed. You're not preventing it.
yeah.
And some of their tools I guess I hesitate to even call them tools because they're actually pretty passive, are stuff like that, like the quality filter to like clear out your mentions and stuff, which doesn't really do anything about the root problem of abuse and harassment. It just kind of hides it from your view. Like, you have to go out of your way to look for it, but it all still exists. It's still there.
It doesn't punish the people who are...
Yeah. Who are doing it. Like, they don't shut down their accounts or anything.
I actually didn't even realize how that worked until fairly recently.
Oh, I still don't know how it works.
Well, I didn't understand that it was... I thought it was only filtering out notifications for things. I didn't realize that the way it filtered was a little bit more complex than that, and so like I ended up clicking through on a tweet of something at some point that somebody replied to, and I saw all of these replies to something. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what is all of this? It was like, oh, like,
It was all hidden from you.
taken aback at how horrific.
Totally. And I mean, yeah, to really enjoy Twitter's that filter, you also need a modicum of self-control, which is a lot to ask of
Which I have none.
of people.
Yeah, you do not.
It does sort of put the onus on the potential abused people
To not look.
to not look.
But I mean, that's not a solution.
Right.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry, just ignore the people who are sending death threats your way and
I'm just curious
hurling slurs at you.
how much better that is, or how much poorer that is really than what Instagram implemented earlier this year and Facebook's long existing services that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've all kind of had issues with it.
Yeah.
Instagram, I believe we had this conversation earlier this year, Dana, about how they also were having a similar issue with failing to get on top of the trolling problem, the harassment problem.
Right. It's sort of magically right after I wrote that editorial panning their poor efforts at preventing harassment, they got their asses in gear a little
Yeah.
bit.
Are you going to take personal credit for getting Instagram to take harassment seriously?
I
should.
take a little bit of credit.
I think
Okay.
you should, yeah.
The timing was just very funky on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're welcome, Internet.
Yeah.
Everybody send Dana Wollman a thank you card for helping clean up Instagram.
Can we also really quickly talk about how Vine just died and then came back to life and then like
Wait, it came back to life?
it did sort of get resurrected? Yeah.
Wait, I missed this.
Yeah, yeah.
Partially because I don't give a shit about Vine.
No one really does, so I
Yeah.
guess I understood.
And like
why
a
they-
third of the Engadget staff gives a shit about mine.
Yeah, true.
About
Mostly
a,
Dan Cooper, but yeah.
a third of the Engadget staff gives a shit about Vine, and the Engadget staff probably accurately represents like 1% of the
Yeah.
population.
Just yeah.
So like if even the entire Engadget staff can't get behind this thing, it was
But, you
doomed
know,
to fail from
I
moment
don't,
one.
I don't have the energy or the creativity to make vines
Mm-hmm.
myself, but I did always really enjoy watching other people's.
and they were kind of a pioneer in that
There were
looping
some funny
video
ones.
space.
There
too.
was some good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hard to get super excited about 6-second loops of stuff. I mean, I appreciate what certain people were able to accomplish in that
Yeah.
restrictive thing. I just don't know that we need a platform specifically designed for 6-second loops. Of
So just
video.
another fail, basically, on Twitter's
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
I made a small loop of involving trout the other day. I don't know if you saw it.
I missed that.
Oh. You missed the loop of trout and my mom trading
I
video
saw
messages.
that one. So good. It was
Wait,
on your
what?
Instagram. Yeah.
I'll show you after.
Okay.
Anyway, but without Vine, I use the iMovie app to make that, which was easy enough, but probably a little more of a pain in the ass than
Yeah.
Vine would have been.
So I think between Yahoo and Twitter, those are probably the two companies that suffered the most in 2016. But a pretty close third place is definitely Samsung.
Yep.
We had a bunch of really obvious picks for Losers
Yeah.
Week when we came up with this package of
Yeah.
stories. Twitter was obvious.
Yep.
Samsung, really obvious.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many things did they have that exploded this year?
Phones, washing machines. Were there notebooks?
No notebooks, but even with the phone, the exploding phones, it wasn't just like it was a saga that really was drawn out
Yeah.
to Samsung's detriment.
Yeah.
It was the gift that keeps on giving for tech journalists,
Yeah.
basically.
And it unfortunately kind of like caused a lot of other products to get in the in the media attention. Like of a Galaxy S7 exploding somewhere on its own wouldn't have made news if not for the fact that Note 7s on the whole were just exploding anyway.
I don't know if I heard about exploding S7s.
I heard about like not an S7 but an older Note that exploded.
okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it raised questions about the rest of Samsung's products
Right.
in general. Whether or not there were confirmed reports of like mass explosions of the Galaxy S7, people went, the Note 7 is exploding. That's concerning. We need to at least be somewhat wary of Samsung's other products, especially because they can't seem to figure out what the hell was causing the problem.
It was bad for their brand. And I mean, here's the thing. Even though the recall itself is now done.
Finished, more or less.
It's, you still hear the name Samsung now every time you get on a plane in the U.S.
Which, one of my favorite stories, by the way, of the year, one of my favorite stories is the plane that was like temporarily grounded because some asshole like named his Wi-Fi hotspot
Samsung
Note 7 on an airplane. Like, that guy's a dick,
But a winner.
also, bravo.
Yeah.
Well trolled.
Hats off. Yeah.
And the airlines, right, there's been mixed messaging. Sometimes they'll just say, put, like, no Note 7s on this plane. But haven't there been some airlines that have actually just said,
You can't bring it on.
no Samsung?
I haven't seen anything that says no Samsung, but I have seen some, people saying that you can't bring the Note 7 on. And even when it first started happening, before like the recall was in full effect, they were already saying you can't turn them on, period. Like even in airplane mode, you can't use the Note 7. It needs to be completely powered off on the plane. I remember seeing that sign on my way back from Seattle in September. I was on vacation, and I was like, this is kind of hilarious that there's a giant, like, crappily printed sign at the boarding gate.
Samsung's brand and name is everywhere, just not in a way that it ever would have hoped for.
Maybe bad publicity is good? Nah,
No,
there's
that's
no
that's
way
not a
that's-
thing.
We discussed
Anybody who
this part before. The Note brand can't possibly come back.
No, the Note
It's
brand needs to
unfortunate.
die.
It's really unfortunate because the Note brand was pretty good for.
But now they need something else. I mean, this was one of our top rated phones ever
Yeah.
and of the year before it, this
Started
happened.
Before it started blowing up.
Yeah.
And typically what they do is they'll have 2 rounds of flagship phones every year. There's the, this year was the S7 and S7 Edge in the spring, and the Note was going to be the flagship for the back half of the year. Now what do?
Rename it, and come up with something else altogether.
So they need to both salvage their brand and come up with some new, also great idea.
Yeah. But at the same time, be able to guarantee that this will not happen again.
Which I don't know that they can do
don't think
because
they
they
can.
still haven't figured out what caused it in the first place, right?
I think a lot of people were speculating it was trying to cram such a large battery into such a
I've
slim.
Which
heard that.
we covered in our own
Yeah.
story, but that
Still isn't really
it
confirmed.
came from an outside researcher and not in a way I trust an outside researcher and want to hear what they say because they're not beholden to Samsung, but it is troubling that Samsung isn't proffering any
Reason.
answers at all. It's
Yeah.
just it's befuddled in public and maybe
Yeah.
in private,
What do you think this means for the S line though? The regular smartphone?
I think it's going to continue. It has to continue, right? What else?
Yeah.
Else are they going to do? These
But you
are
think it'll, like, stop-
best-selling phones? That they're really they sell
Well,
well.
Do you think it's just the Note brand that's tarnished, or is it the Galaxy line as a whole that now is coming to question?
More Note.
I mean, I agree more than Note. Like, I still have faith in the S line myself, and there's a lot of rumors still flying around about what the S8 will bring about. So I think people are still excited about that.
It's interesting. So Chris Velasco, our mobile editor, wrote up this Samsung story for Losers Week, and although it's not a good thing for Samsung that it made our losers list, Chris ended his story on a somewhat hopeful note, I thought, just giving us the perspective of looking back on some other companies that have had recalls or had big public relations disasters and that were able to climb back from that. So in this editorial he wrote, he seemed to believe that not all was lost for Samsung, at least not long term.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Samsung's kind of carved that space for itself where it's pretty firmly on top of the Android phones market. And that's a big market.
They are doing pretty. I think they have a chance to come back as well.
I mean, I think his perspective is correct. I mean, people are still
Yeah.
buying Toyota vehicles and Volkswagen vehicles.
Despite the recalls.
And I think a faulty car is a
More-
worse thing to buy than an overheating phone.
Well, those are slightly different, though. I mean, the Volkswagen thing wasn't going to kill you. It was
A dishonest company.
A dishonest
But
company,
Toyota,
and Toyota was primarily airbags, wasn't it? That was what the recall was about.
I thought it was brakes.
I think I remember an airbags one. I just don't remember the exact company. So, and Terrence is looking it up.
I
It
have
was-
the internet at my
There
disposal.
you go.
I don't, as you can see.
You have your phone.
It's in airplane mode because
Because you're cool like that.
I have good manners.
I'm going to turn my
So yeah, no, it's an airbag thing. So I mean,
But it was a safety thing.
it's a safety thing, but it's not that the car is defective in that the car will actively harm you. It's that if you get yourself in a place where you're going to be hurt, the car may not protect you as
But
well as
that's
it's
bad.
supposed
That's,
to.
yeah,
I mean,
we're
it's
talking-
bad, but it's different than a phone
That will
literally
actively
exploding.
explode, yeah.
Like, if the brakes don't work and you can't stop the car, that's a better comparison as opposed to the airbags not working. Because it's not like the car is causing you to crash and die. The car is just failing to protect you properly.
But a car is more of an investment piece. You spend so much money on it, and you own it for longer. And if I were a car shopper, I don't know if I would consider a company that had just recently had a massive recall and that appeared to have ignored the problem it was aware of in the first place. A phone, I don't think an exploding phone's good, but at least the phone is more of a commodity in the first place.
Well, this is why I'm never going to buy phones or cars ever again.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm going to communicate with everybody via Telegram and bike everywhere.
Until you forget about the Samsung scandal, and then you'll buy a Samsung phone again. If you don't like the Pixel better.
Yeah, or the Pixel.
I mean, I already have the Pixel, and I love it.
Yeah, but that's beside the point.
I don't care about your thoughts, really, Terrence.
Nobody does.
Nobody, yeah.
You know who's not going to recover from 2016, though?
Us.
Well, we'll get to that later. That's entirely possible. I was going to say Theranos, or Theranos. How do you pronounce that? I actually have no idea.
Theranos.
Theranos?
Okay.
Sure.
I almost said Theranos, but yeah.
Yeah. I'll be completely honest. I'm not 100% caught up on the story here. Dana, are you a little bit more connected with this? I know you did edit this piece, right? Or did I?
I did.
You did, okay.
Yeah. And really, not much to know. I think you actually probably know more about this than you think you do. This company was the darling of the venture capital world. It was, this startup, really highly valued. It all started with this Wall Street Journal piece from last fall. So technically, this began as a 2015 story.
Yeah. And Can we quickly recap just what they do as well? Because I think there's some people out there who might not be familiar with the company.
Right. So the quick blood testing using just a prick of blood, avoiding people having to sit and have all that blood just drain into a vial.
Ugh.
We all hate. Yeah.
Ugh.
What? I love it.
Theranos had.
I almost passed out the last 2 times again. It was really bad.
This technology was designed to be used in places like drugstores where you could just pop in and quickly have your test.
Yeah. And they partnered with
Walgreens.
Walgreens, yes. Mm-hmm. So things looked like they were going to be going pretty well.
Great. It was highly valued. The CEO, Elizabeth Holmes, is my age. She's 32 now. I think a Stanford graduate, so she seems to have a really bright future ahead of her. And then this investigative Wall Street Journal piece, the first of many, came out late last year, calling into question the technology. And then indeed, that sort of set off this wave of scrutiny. And indeed, some of the test results did have to be voided, which is terrible when you're dealing with human patients, right? Who want an accurate diagnosis, whether it's bad or good. So these test results had to be voided eventually.
And it was no small amount of them, right? It was like a pretty significant. It wasn't like 5%. It was like 30, 40% or something like that.
It was many, yeah. I forget the exact number, but it was a lot. And
I'm trying to find it in the piece
enough
right
certainly
now.
for Walgreens to put the brakes on this partnership. And throughout, Theranos really didn't take much responsibility, was really quick to cast blame on other people's, but even countersuing partners like Walgreens. So, I mean, similar to what we were just talking about with the Samsung recall, there was a bad thing that happened in the first place, but then was really drawn out in a way that reflected badly on the company. And that's the part that probably Theranos, at the very least, could have controlled.
Yeah. I have the accuracy figure for you if you want it.
Okay, go ahead.
Internal paperwork said that the test was accurate 95% of the time, but in reality, that figure was somewhere between 65 and 80%.
And that is not acceptable
it's almost
for medical
50-50.
testing.
You might as well throw a coin.
Yeah.
Right. And so now Elizabeth Holmes is banned from owning or operating a lab for, I think, 2 years.
That's enough.
She's never going to work again.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
I mean, she'll get a job. It just might
banned
be
from
in a
owning
grocery
and
store.
operating a lab, but I don't believe has taken public responsibility. So there's a real disconnect there between reality and between actual reality and Theranos's version of
Yeah.
reality.
Just still sticking to her story or not admitting responsibility or anything.
Yeah.
Which
Not surprising.
yeah, sure.
CEOs and companies hate accepting responsibility for the
Lots of
stupid things they
companies-
do.
Yeah. Kool-Aid.
In fact, that's a lot of the companies that are on this list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another company that we decided had a bad year, although I will admit that this is slightly controversial, is Apple.
Not bad financially, to be clear.
Yes.
Their
So
financial returns are still pretty strong.
our point was less that Apple had a bad year, and also to be clear, a bad year by Apple standards would be a good year for many other
Yeah,
companies.
that's true.
I believe our headline was even, it was a bad year for Apple fans.
Yeah.
A hard year.
To be an
Yeah.
Apple fan, yeah.
And I, it's mostly for us. I think it was a thing of Apple starting to get a little bit boring.
Yeah.
When compared to Microsoft is doing more interesting things than Apple at this point.
Yep.
Especially in terms of hardware.
Yeah.
Google is the more interesting software company, I think, by most accounts. I think at this point, this goes back and forth, but I think Android is probably the more interesting mobile operating system than iOS.
Well, and don't discount Microsoft's efforts in software
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. I mean, they're all trying and doing more interesting things, and Apple is kind of staying the course, making minor tweaks.
And has left those of us who use Apple products with some hard choices.
Yes. And I think that's kind of the thing that pushed it over the edge from Apple had kind of a boring year. It was like, the Apple Watch sure barely changed, and the iPad didn't change, and whatever is. But then they went, have all the dongles.
Right. I mean, this is an iPhone 6, and I'm not thrilled to be using a 2-year-old phone, but I'm also not thrilled at the idea of upgrading to either the iPhone 7 or the iPhone SE.
I don't want the SE at all. It's
No,
too
I
small
don't.
for me.
But I
You like
I'm
headphones?
fine enough with what
I
I
do
have
like
that I don't want to upgrade, and I feel the same way about a laptop. I don't actually own a personal laptop right now. I'm using my
Oh.
work-issued MacBook Air, and part of the reason is I have not been fully satisfied with any of the new MacBooks that have come out, or MacBook Pros that have come out this year.
Other companies make laptops, Dana.
I do. And so, but I think that's the thing is Apple hooked a lot of us in by getting us to really buy into the ecosystem, which many of us did. And now, again, hard choices.
yeah.
You can abandon the whole ecosystem,
And then relearn a whole.
leave your
Way
apps
of life,
behind,
yeah.
all that, or settle for hardware that really isn't quite what many of us were hoping for or waiting for.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm intrigued by the 7 Plus. Like, I've been thinking about upgrading to that from my 6S, which is still fine. But like you said, that missing headphone jack, even though they're going to give me the lightning earphones with the box in the box, and I'm just like, no.
No.
I also kind of want the AirPods, but a lot of people said they look ugly, and I'm like, no,
They're atrocious.
they're not so bad.
They're atrocious.
They're not.
They're pretty terrible.
Your face is atrocious.
I mean, this is fair.
Yeah, true.
My face is definitely one of the biggest losers of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
If
But,
we were not a tech site, we would have definitely written
For
about
sure.
my face.
Yeah. I don't know, but I as a non super hardcore Apple fan, who still has and reviews some Apple products from time to time, I found it's for me, I was like middle ground. I was like, yeah, I can see why people are super disappointed, but I also see that they're making some headway. Like, after they remove the headphone jack, like you're gonna start seeing more and more people do the wireless headphone thing.
You know, and I think too, what we're seeing here is a theme. Because we're talking about Apple, but this theme came up, I think, with Theranos and maybe to an extent Samsung. It probably came up in our discussion of Yahoo. But I think what you have are stubborn companies that there were probably inside each company people who could have said, "Hey, your blood testing technology doesn't work," or "Hey, Yahoo, your security protocols are outdated," or "Hey, Apple, people are going to be pissed off if you remove all of their full-size USB ports on the MacBook Pro."
Yeah.
I think there probably were people inside each of those companies, and maybe Samsung. Hey, like, what are you doing, squeezing this gigantic battery into this slim frame? There probably were people who raised these red flags, but I think you have this collection of stubborn companies that are now suffering from their own hubris, and I think Apple is.
Yeah, no,
One of
that I
them.
completely agree with. Like, clearly someone was like, this is a bad idea, but they're like, nah, they're gonna love it.
Yeah.
We'll make this other thing called the AirPods and sell it for what, $400.
So hypothetical for you. Apple decides with the MacBook Pro not to do the stupid touch bar thing, which is kind of, as far as I can tell, useless.
Sure.
I mean, I don't understand the purpose of it, if I'm
Touch
honest.
bar thing is only part of it, and so
Well, here was going to be my hypothetical question: is we at least I and we have in other cases chastised Apple for getting a little bit boring, and this is one of their attempts at being different and interesting. If Apple releases the MacBook Pro without the touch bar, but keeps your USB ports and SD card slots and all that stuff, does Apple still end up a loser of the year?
that still doesn't. So I was going to say that wouldn't still address the battery life question, which was and is becoming more of an issue with the MacBook Pro. Initial reviewers pointed that out, but you just had Consumer Reports for the first time not recommending the MacBook Pro because of inconsistent and poor battery life. And I think this, too, is where a stubborn company gets itself in trouble. If you've seen Apple's response to Consumer Reports' testing and other reviewers' testing, but especially Consumer Reports, Apple's response is something like, well, we got long battery life in our own tests.
Oh.
I mean,
you know,
that's such an Apple response to things, though.
it's like you're using it wrong.
Yeah, you're holding it wrong.
But no, I mean, I believe, I don't believe Consumer Reports lied about their testing. I do believe that they ran the tests multiple times. And if you look at other reviews from other outlets that we respect, they also got kind of wonky, not so great battery life.
Yeah. I think that's a huge problem because now they're starting to fail on the basics in pursuit of so-called innovation. And then, like, to your point, though, Terrence, if they had kept all the ports and then done away with the touch bar thing, I think they wouldn't have risen to the point of being one of the big losers of the year, because one of the big contentions here is that the buy into the dongle-verse thing is one of the reasons. But I still feel like they would have disappointed a lot of people.
It's more than it's the dongle life for both the phone and the MacBook. It's the touch bar, it's the the missing function keys, it's the battery life. It's all that stuff.
It's a whole host of garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that they did this year that was kind of boring was, again, the Apple Watch, which, excellent segue.
Good
so
job.
Proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too.
Let's talk smartwatches.
Yeah, I was really sad this year. I'm so I was so sad.
Are you literally the only person who cares about smartwatches?
I might be. I don't know. But a lot of people on our team seem to care about Pebble, which this year got bought by Fitbit.
Which I don't understand.
Everyone loves an underdog.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't feel strongly about Pebble, but
and they were scrappy, and they burst onto the scene with a smartwatch before any of the big companies were making them. They had something that was functional. I'm sorry, I'm just going into my eulogy for Pebble right now.
No, that's fine.
But and they were one of the few that got me really excited about smartwatches, despite the fact that they were an e-ink display, which I really don't want to deal with ever again. But then I'm sorry, yes?
Well, I was going to ask, so why did Pebble excite you over other smartwatches?
I got really seriously excited about the Pebble watches when the Pebble Time Round first launched. And that was the first ever smartwatch that ever fit under my winter coat, which is, for some reason, really narrow around the wrist. And this watch was super thin, but it still did a lot. And it still lasted at least 2 or 3 days.
the battery life was always pretty decent.
It was
on Pebble
always
watches.
Yeah, it was one of the few that would last at least a week. So, I mean, that's similar to what a Fitbit would get you nowadays. So I kind of see where that buy or the acquisition sort of vaguely makes sense. But they're not going to make any more new Pebbles, and they kind of screwed all their fans over when they said, well, yeah, we're not shipping any of these things that you pre-ordered the last time we...
Well, that and, people's devices will brick.
Yeah.
Not next year, but the year after.
Which sucks. Like,
Yeah.
if you got a Pebble and why even do that? Like, because... They're also shutting down all their software support, so I guess to prevent any more problems from that coming out, they're just bricking everything, which then you're just left with a bunch of relics and...
And none of this would be as big of an issue if there were more compelling alternatives. But that was kind of the point of your story that you wrote for us, is there aren't.
Yeah, so...
And not many are coming.
Nothing seems to be coming, although Google did kind of tease the fact that it's, working on 2 Android Wear smartwatches next year, 2017.
But is that really exciting?
Well, I mean, I know that Android Wear has its flaws. It's very limited. It's not very useful.
I mean, I personally, I'd make the argument that smartwatches in general are not very useful.
No, you're wrong. I like wearing watches. That might be why. Like I've always.
I like wearing watches too.
Useful but not essential is what I would say.
It's not essential for sure. I can see that. But for people like me who want that fancy techie thing on their wrist, that's not a fitness tracker. That's not only a fitness tracker. Smartwatches have their uses. Like once they built in voice control into watches, like some of the watches this year we saw had Alexa functionality on them. Some of the Android Wear watches may even be able to do Google Assistant stuff in the future that let you control your smart home devices through Google Home, maybe.
Well, hasn't Android Wear been able to do Google Now for some time?
They've been able to do OK Google for voice control, for like open up this app, set an alarm. The Apple Watch can work with Siri. I think that's one of the most useful, applications of smartwatches potentially coming in the future, but a lot of them that we've seen this year, the ones that were pretty good were the hybrids, traditional looking analog watches that have hidden fitness tracking abilities or some vibrating motors.
So I can get into those. I can get into the like regular analog watches that have like a fitness tracker built in. Why Things had one.
Yeah,
or
the
Withings.
Activities.
Another one that I have no idea how to pronounce that company's name.
Withings, Activity Steel. There's also Timex, Fossil, even Michael Kors. A lot of these like big brands that make watches or jewelry actually jumped in.
But those are barely smart watches. Those are just watches with a pedometer built into them.
Yeah, and some of them, do like notification things where they'll either light up to say, hey, green, it means you have a Facebook, message, or blue means you have a Twitter notification. Some of them will vibrate to tell you someone's calling, and you can press a button and then, to dismiss the call. So there are some of them that are useful. It's just like right now, this year just wasn't great. I still have hope, though, for the future.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just so you're.
Why you gotta be so mean?
So you're giving. So you like Chris Velasco are hopeful.
Yeah, I am hopeful.
Smartwatches are definitely one of the big losers of the year. They had a bad year in general. Nobody cares about them still. But you're hopeful for their future.
I am hopeful. I want to throw in one more point. Is that, like two other companies actually backed out of the whole wearables market altogether, including Microsoft and Motorola. So that's not good news.
It's not.
Especially because the Band, Microsoft's Band, while a deeply, deeply flawed product.
Yeah.
Let's be 100% clear. I reviewed the first one, and
the 2 wasn't so bad.
But you thought the software platform was good enough to live on other devices.
Yeah, I thought it was certainly the more interesting. I thought it focused on the right things.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Android Wear and Apple's Watch OS try to do too much in many ways. And I think a lot of the fitness and health stuff that Microsoft has built in the back end is really where the smartwatch wearable focus should be.
Right.
And their portion of that is much better, or at least at the time was much better.
Yeah.
I think it's sad to see Microsoft exit the wearable market because it was one of the more interesting devices, even if it was not a consumer-ready product.
Yeah.
I believe actually when I reviewed the first one, I said like it seems like it's a really good prototype, but it's not a consumer product.
I mean, and Motorola backing out isn't an encouraging sign either because the Moto 360 was one of the more popular Android Wear watches ever.
It was the first one that I saw and went,
yep.
Maybe I could wear a smartwatch. I own one and I can't.
The 360?
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten prettier. To be honest, the latest generations of it are
The
looking.
problem with the Moto 360 and a lot of these watches was battery life.
Yep.
The battery life is terrible, and they're giant.
So that's two problems, right? So the cases are always too huge. That's one of the reasons I like the time round because it was slim. And battery life, they only last about 2 days on a charge if they have anything like a color touch screen.
Oh, the 360 lasted a day at most. I had it die on me.
That was probably the first generation.
I don't mind that.
You wouldn't mind a day?
No, I mean, so I wore the Apple Watch for a while for testing purposes, and I didn't mind setting it aside on its charging disc at night. My only thing there was that the disc was a little slippery, so it didn't always, hold on to.
Yeah.
You might wake up and realize it wasn't charged.
Well, I wouldn't mind charging it every night. I mean, I charge my phone every night.
Yeah.
My issue was that the battery life wasn't good enough to make me feel comfortable, though.
To rely on it.
Yeah,
Right.
So multiple times I had it die on me before I got home. A couple of those times was in the middle. Like, I was still at the office, and I looked down at my wrist and went,
There's no time on there.
It depends on the way you use it, but yeah, I mean, even heavier users should
should be able to rely on it.
Yeah,
right?
like if I can't tell what time it is because my watch is dead, that's not an encouraging sign.
There's a lot of problems with smartwatches, like always on display needs to be a thing. You should always be able to tell the time, and then battery life is a long-standing problem since the first iteration now. But we are seeing new technology come up. I mean, this year we saw a body heat, No.
It was body heat powered.
Body
right?
heat powered smartwatch. I was like, body heat generating? No.
No.
Like a body heat
A watch that
powered
generates
smartwatch.
body
Like,
heat.
no, that's weird.
That doesn't make any sense.
So that turns the your body heat into power for your smartwatch, and I think that's like really smart. And they're going to be in talks with other companies to start implementing this into other watches. So hopefully that'll become something we see in the future that will extend battery life for wearables. But the question again is for wearables, that fitness seems to be the only way wearables can survive,
Yeah.
right? If we're talking about not just smartwatches, and even smartwatches all have some kind of heart rate sensor on them, at least the good ones
The good
do.
ones.
So for that kind of device, though, battery life is even more essential because the second you take it off and you have to charge it for a day, your fitness metrics, at least for me, they're just all messed up.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to work on, but I think they're all working on it, though. So still hopeful.
Yeah, I am too.
Yay.
All right.
We like each other. We don't like you.
Nobody likes me.
That's true. Anyway.
What do we want to talk about next? Do we want to...
You're the host. You tell us.
Yeah, bro.
Well, I was going to say, do we want to end on the worst gadgets of the year in rapid fire succession, or do we want to end on the real downer piece?
I think we should do the gadgets last because we're Engadget.
Okay, fair enough. So the other piece that may or may not be up by the time this episode goes live is the piece that I wrote about how the American public is the biggest loser of 2016.
God and Gadget, stop talking about politics.
Yeah.
To be clear, I've actually left the comments on this one.
Awesome.
You did?
Yeah. So I can't wait.
To read it.
It's going to be really great. I'm looking forward to all your hate mail.
You're Engadget, not M politics.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, to be clear, though, this is not all about politics. I mean, that's part of it. But this is more about, and this pulls in bits and pieces from other stuff that we wrote about as well. This pulls in stuff about Twitter. This pulls in stuff about Yahoo. And just kind of in general about how a lot of our faith and trust in these systems that we've come to rely on has broken down completely. And that, yes, that's partially our political system, but the reason this is a tech story, because I can sense people out there getting a little like...
Issues around cybersecurity, hacking, fake news on social media.
And you can't argue tech is becoming such a big part of our culture anyway that...
Right. We're not covering politics just for politics' sake. We're not covering Obamacare.
Unless their website crashes again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But
At which point, that's a tech story.
yeah.
And to be clear, we covered that.
Yeah.
At least I'm pretty sure
Yes.
we did.
I mean, things like
It's been a while.
tech policy, climate change policy, hacking,
Yeah.
and the role of social media in tipping elections is all very interesting to us.
And definitely within our wheelhouse, I would say.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to really boil this down into, like, one piece. If you've ever wanted to read just concentrated misery, I would suggest going for this. This is just, like, all of the horrible things in the year distilled into, like, 1,700
Or
words.
read your Terrence's life journal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have. Is that
a
still
live
a
journal.
thing?
Sure, olds. Anyway.
Live journal, just, if somebody tell me if live journal still exists.
Yeah, okay, we'll figure that out.
So, I mean, it's hard to even figure out where to start with this sort of stuff. Because, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is all of these hacks, and you touched on it with Yahoo. I should actually probably update this post. I don't know if I have the latest Yahoo hacks in here.
Uh-oh.
Wasn't the most recent thing...
I do not have the most recent Yahoo hacks
With the
in here.
billion people?
Yeah.
You should edit that.
I am going to edit that the moment we finish recording this episode.
Yeah.
So when you read this tomorrow, you'll have slightly new copy in here.
There you go.
So, I mean, between 1.5 billion Yahoo accounts being hacked, there was the Oracle thing where, like, 330,000 cash registers were compromised. A whole bunch of hotels were hit. There's actually there was a story coming around yesterday or the day before about how Holiday Inn Express might have been compromised, so more credit card numbers could have been stolen. You couldn't even buy a burger at Wendy's this year without worrying about whether or not your identity was going to be stolen. That's how shitty of a year it was.
I wonder, though, I mean, part of the thing for Yahoo was that they waited 2 years to tell people about their breach, right? So Yahoo's thing
Yes.
technically happened 2 years ago, but
One breach was 2 years, the other was 3.
Yes.
yeah.
So those are technically older,
Yeah.
but they only came out this year, which is part of the reason why it's a this year story.
Right, I totally get why this is this year's story, but it's also been like security has not been great for years now. It's
No.
just there's a spotlight on it this year.
And I think, there's a whole bunch of high-profile stories that kind of highlighted how difficult it is even to manage security. Like, I and plenty of other people have shit on Yahoo for their shitty security practices, and deservedly so. But it's not like this is easy stuff to figure out either.
No.
We had the Leslie Jones hack, which was one of the big celebrity ones, but even like our tech CEOs couldn't seem to keep their goddamn Twitter profiles from getting hacked.
This was the year of our mine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's huge.
Zuckerberg, Dorsey, Dick Costello, Sundar Pichai, Daniel Ek of Spotify, like all of these people had some of their accounts compromised in some way. Mark Zuckerberg's is probably the most embarrassing.
Yeah. That's
What was
crazy.
his password again?
I don't remember.
His password was really terrible. That's like he got hacked because
Like
he
of
doesn't.
all people.
He doesn't know how to set a password. That's why.
I think I might be
Did he
able
not
to-
have two-factor authentication?
I don't believe he had two-factor authentication turned on.
What a dummy.
Which is part of the reason this happened.
What a bonehead.
We don't have it in the story. I do remember, though, that part of the reason he was able to be hacked so easily is that his password was something dumb like la la la. Like it was like, and
That's
then he used
amazing.
it for like multiple things.
You also just told the whole world my password.
Oh,
Thanks a lot.
well, you should change that before this
I
episode
know.
goes up. So I mean, it was all of this stuff, and then you had on top of that all of these government agencies that couldn't keep their shit together. The IRS had over 100,000 e-pin stolen. Employees at the FBI and Department of Homeland Security had stuff stolen. The election boards in Arizona and Illinois were hacked. The DNC, obviously, John Podesta. There was all the WikiLeaks nonsense. I'll actually avoid talking too much about the political stuff,
Yeah.
except to say that it was sad to watch WikiLeaks, who I think most people have a kind of complicated relationship with to begin with. I know I do, but they at least always seemed to be a principled organization focused on promoting radical transparency. And this year they became like an opposition research arm for the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
And that was just sad to watch. And Julian Assange is a pathetic human. Fuck you, Julian Assange.
Okay. All right. Keep going.
No, that's...
Yeah. No. We want all of this vitriol out of you.
I'm partially angry because I was reading an article this morning on the way in by one Glenn Greenwald, who, as Dana can attest, I have some issues with, about this Guardian piece that went up a couple of days ago talking about Assange. What was the... It was
I actually haven't seen this article.
So the Guardian published this article a couple of days ago saying that Assange offers guarded praise of Trump and all of these other things. And most of the information from it came from an interview with another outlet. And to be fair, the Guardian article is garbage. It's very, very misleading. It attributes things to Assange that he never said. So Glenn Greenwald, being Glenn Greenwald, had to publish this giant takedown of this journalist because Glenn Greenwald has nothing better to do with his life than troll other journalists instead of doing actual reporting. But you should read his takedown because he has a point that this article is garbage, but also Glenn Greenwald's article is garbage. So
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but now I will.
Now I will too, and try to say his name 10 times in a row.
So what else do we want to talk about? Now that I've just shit on Glenn Greenwald for
How
a while.
about worst gadgets?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
That would be so much fun.
What do we want to start with? There's no point in talking about the Galaxy Note 7, really.
Yeah.
Because we've already talked about that. We already talked about the iPhone 7 and their stupid headphone adapter dongle. And all
We
the
just
other
made the
dongles.
dongle the worst gadget. We didn't make the whole phone.
Just
yeah,
the dongle.
just the
Yeah.
dongle. The
So
phone
the
is
iPhone
fine.
7 is not the worst gadget.
It's
It
not.
was fairly well reviewed.
Yeah, just the dongle is the
Yeah.
worst. All of their dongles.
Yeah, there's so many crap devices this year. For me, off the top of my head, the Yoga Book was pretty bad. Just getting rid of the keyboard altogether.
So tell us a bit about that one. So I don't know if everybody can tell. I'm not the big gadget guy here. So
I think everyone can tell.
I'm not actually super familiar with some of the stuff on this. Like, I don't know what the Sony
You open the
Xperia X
Yoga
Performance
book,
is.
and one side of this book is the screen, and the other is this blank surface that doubles as both a light-up keyboard and
I remember this one
and
now.
a sketching surface. But you try typing on a flat surface.
Like, yeah, imagine if a
As if it
table
were a
in front of
keyboard
you,
replacement.
Yeah, had like outlines of letters, and all you had to do is type on it. That's
So yeah, this was the one that I literally didn't understand the purpose of.
Yeah.
Because to me, the entire purpose of buying like a Lenovo, I guess it's technically not a ThinkPad, but of buying like the
Yeah.
ThinkPad brand is to get like the
keyboard.
top-notch keyboard. And if you don't have a keyboard, why are you making that machine?
I mean, so it was billed as something for creative, so I get that, like note taking to kind of mimic a real live, realistic note taking experience. But it was also kind of marketed as a productivity device, and that's where it majorly failed.
They do know that they have touch screens and styluses that work really well, right?
To be fair, they did have a like good-ish paper and pen experience. You could write on real paper with their provided pen, and it would be safe to the computer.
And I thought your review was fair. I mean, because you didn't recommend that people actually buy this, but you did give them a nod toward the innovation. I
Yeah.
like that it reminded me of that Microsoft Folio product that was leaked but
Man.
never came
Yeah,
out.
that like concept device, which I mean, I admit as well. I was like always intrigued. I was like, this looks pretty dope.
And to be fair, and if Lenovo was watching this, because like when I first saw it, me and Chris Velasco took that briefing. When we first saw it, we were like mind blown. We were like, holy crap, this is amazing. Like, it looks amazing. But then like trying to actually type on the keyboard at several meetings, I took the thing with me to like 5 different important briefings.
I mean, I think there's value in the fact that this was really about the size of a paperback book, maybe a little bigger, and it was
Yes.
super light. You could really just easily grip it in your fingers.
Yeah.
I think there's value in that. I don't know if I want that to be my typing experience,
no.
but
Like, even for like note taking in a lecture, that was like, it was not easy. It's like when I wrote my notes down, when I write notes on paper, I can write every which way. But when you do that on a stylus and you have to be aware of its orientation or of the digitizer, I mean, like, and you're worried about going out of bounds and it will be saved, that's just too much to deal with. So anyway, it failed. Sorry, Lenovo.
Yeah, that's why it made the list. We're not trying to shit on every
Yeah.
gadget on this list.
We
but,
appreciate the effort. It was like an interesting thing you tried. It just
Yeah.
but
was,
if we're talking about the worst reviewed gadgets on Engadget this year, it's one.
It's
Yeah.
one of them. I remember one that I did that was worse that I reviewed after Worst Gadgets was decided. It was the Xperia Ear.
oh yes,
That got only 59.
Oh yes. So by the time Cherlynn did
that's
this review,
one of the worst reviews we've published in a while.
it was a score of 59, and it came out after we had already decided on this list and sort of got the story ready. But that would have made this list for sure.
That would have, should have.
And it would have been the second Sony product
to be on
this
there.
list. There was a $700 phone where Chris Velasco, who normally
Loves.
he's kind of a phone geek, and he normally, I think, roots for the products he's testing and,
Yeah.
and goes in with the benefit of the doubt, wants them to do well. Even he was like, why would you buy this?
Yeah.
So this is another one that I'm not familiar with.
We're talking about the Xperia X Performance. It's basically yet another one in the Xperia line, which it's
Sony's
Aren't-
line is a little confusing.
yeah.
Aren't all Sony phones Xperia phones? Isn't that just like the name of the Sony
True.
phones?
They are, but there were a few Xperia X's.
And then there's the Xperia XZ, then there's the Xperia Z.
Oh wait, so Xperia X is the line, and there's like 17 versions of the Xperia X, is what you're saying.
there's the X Compact, there's the X Performance, there's the regular X. There's like some for other
We're not on
countries.
Z yet, right?
XZ was announced. I don't know why it's.
The point is, they have a big
anyway.
lineup.
Yeah.
This
And they
is
all look the
so
same. They
dumb.
all have the same blockish rectangular look. Anyway, the thing
No
about the
wonder Sony can't seem to get its shit together in the phone world.
yeah.
And in this case, it's not even like it was a terrible phone, but it was $700, which is really flagship level in terms of pricing, and it just didn't fare well next to the competition.
Yeah.
Leaving people few reasons to buy it. I don't even know if it fared that well against some of its,
Similarly
companion
priced, yeah.
so companion
Oh.
Sony devices.
Yeah. Like, and didn't this one have the predictive autofocus on the camera, which was supposed to get you more crisp shots, but the camera just really wasn't that great anyway?
That may have been one issue.
There's so many issues with the Xperia X performance and the rest of the line.
So don't buy those phones. Any of them.
Avoid Sony for a while for phones and gadgets, I would say.
Well, for phones.
More for phones and the ear.
Yeah. Buy their gaming consoles and
Yeah.
TVs, sure.
Maybe VR headsets.
Do they have a VR headset?
PSVR.
Oh, okay.
Which was on our best gadgets
Which
list.
is on our best guy.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about the Tag Heuer connected
Tag
thing?
Heuer, holy
Heuer,
crap.
Whatever.
Whoa.
Mispronouncing words is
You're
like,
the American.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
mispronouncing words is like what I do.
Tag Heuer's $1,500 Android Wear
Wear.
watch.
When you think about the fact, this is something I said in the smartwatches piece. When you think about the fact that most Android Wear watches cost between $150 and $300, and this Tag Heuer connected doesn't do anything different, you're paying like a $1,200 premium just for that Tag Heuer brand and build, which, just no.
We don't even really need to say anything other than that, really. That kind of explains
That's
everything.
it. That's all.
What are these smart headphone things? I literally have no idea what this is.
They're these headphones with the LCD screen on the ear cup, and you can make it display custom messages. And
Why would somebody
This-
want this?
exactly, it's sort of continuing the Y theme.
Why?
Yeah, I think that's just a big Y, and that's it. That's all of it.
I don't even know if we gave that a full review, but I think
It was bad
it
enough.
was goofy enough to make our list.
Yeah. I should probably read the site sometime.
Sometimes.
It's a site called Engadget, yeah.
Once in a
Yeah.
while, I should check it out.
Yeah,
Stop having Twitter fights with people. And
true. Or reading
the
your
site.
comments.
To be fair, I don't really read the comments.
Yeah, well, anyway. Let's go to the GoPro because then we can talk. You can go whole hog on the last
Snap.
one.
Another
Snapchat?
product that
Yeah.
we liked
Okay.
until it was recalled.
Yeah, right? We
So-
actually liked it.
Yeah, but
It's a foldable drone
yeah.
that was pretty decent.
It was, I believe our score was 78.
We did
and
give it a full
we're-
proper review.
We are still waiting for it to possibly go back on the market so that we can retest it and give
But
it a final.
What was it recalled for?
I do remember that it was 16 days after it hit the market. It was recalled.
after it hit the market.
Yeah.
And it would.
It would hit the ground.
It would. Whoa!
Did I just
Walk
pun
outta
at
here.
you on the air?
Yep.
Damn,
Dana pun.
Dana.
I don't like puns.
I think you do. I think you secretly like
I don't
puns.
like it when you guys make puns.
She
I
only
see.
likes it when
likes
she does.
yeah.
Kind of.
She does do a lot of them.
Has Dana ever told you that when I'm on vacation, every time I come across like a cheesy T-shirt with a pun on it in like a gift shop, I have to like send it to her. Just like
I feel so sorry for you, Dana.
Every time I see like a pun in public, I'm just like, Dana.
However, now I will start doing that too. So
It was the Harry Otter T-shirt that I saw in the aquarium, and I was like, this is for Dana.
okay, now you've just given me free reign to do that to Dana.
Yeah.
But so the apparently the Karma drone would lose power midair and then just drop. So it's not a small device, so it wouldn't hurt someone when it fell out of the sky.
Yeah.
That's a good recall. That's a good reason to recall something.
I agree. And when your drone doesn't fly, that seems
Wow,
like
was
a
that another-
major problem.
Anyway, that's a fail.
Yeah.
That's a big fail.
Last one on our list, though.
Hi.
You have snap glasses.
Yeah. Snapticles.
Snapticles.
Yeah, we're on air right now. Come on, talk.
Spectacles.
Spectacles. I just
Spectacles.
made them snapticles.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I hate these things.
But no, what really made the list were their filters, right?
Yeah. So the glasses didn't make the list.
The glasses I proposed to be on the best devices list. Like, I
Did you
sent an
really?
email. Yeah, I was like, yo, these are great.
Why does she still work for us?
Because I buy shit like this. That's why.
She's
all right?
charming.
It's true.
Because I'm charming, or
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, not the glasses. The
I am
spectacles are not
charming.
charming.
charming Cherlynn. It's a thing. Anyway,
Anyway.
the thing on the list was the Snapchat filters that we talked about on one of our episodes.
Multiple
as well.
racist filters.
What is wrong with this company?
To be fair,
And commenters, save your emails arguing with
Yeah.
us about whether yellowface is racist.
racist.
It's
Because
racist.
it's fucking
guys.
racist. God
But
damn
to be
it.
fair, but I will be fair, there have been filters on Snapchat that put Marilyn Monroe's face on you. And I remember one of the issues we had was it put Black Marley.
God damn it, Cherlynn.
Bob Marley's face on you. So, like, I don't see why. I mean, I see why there's no argument for the Marilyn Monroe one, but there is still one for the Bob Marley one. But I can see why people would make the argument that it's not racist, like because there is that variety of celebrity faces, despite
I
their
haven't
race.
used the Marilyn Monroe one. Also, I don't use Snapchat.
Because, like, in general, black people putting on a white face as a temporary costume isn't a thing.
Yeah, no one's ever done it.
Not since the movie White Chicks.
Well, that was a great movie though,
It's on cable all the time.
and Netflix.
why-
I watch it all the time. It's so good.
guys, White Chicks just came up on the Engadget podcast, and I feel like I should retire now.
I think
I feel like that's the perfect place to just end my career.
you should go home and watch it and curl up in a blanket and
You're
let
just
it.
gonna- instead of a shitty comment of the week to end the podcast, you could just end it with me quoting White Chicks.
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
can we both do that? Just all day.
Do both of you know quotes from White Chicks off the
You'll
top of
be
your
here.
head?
Okay,
I'm about to throw a BF.
Terry Crews was in that movie, which means
Yes,
it
he
can't be
was.
the worst thing in the world because Terry Crews is the best
Who
human.
was he, the
of all
father?
the humans?
Was he the dad?
He was the
Twins, the evil dad?
he was the love interest who didn't realize he was dating a man dressed as a woman.
Shit, that's amazing. Yes, he was really good in that.
I mean, Terry
He
Crews is
sang-
great.
He sang 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton in there. His rendition of that was amazing. You should watch it just for that.
Terrence, we have hijacked your podcast,
That's
and I am
fine.
not sorry.
I'm pretty okay with
We
just
need to
talking
talk-
about White
we-
Chicks
we
for the
should-
rest of this.
We should do a movies podcast sometime. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, no, those filters, I get why they're there. They were insensitive. 'Cause
Yeah.
of- yeah.
Why they're there on the list.
Yeah.
yeah, not why they
Not
exist.
why they
I don't
exist on
understand why
Snapchat.
they exist.
Yeah, now that I think about it,
But again, this comes back to a company's stubborn response. Snapchat
Yeah.
could have said, you're right.
Sorry.
We accept your feedback. This didn't occur to us, but we'll do better next time. They
And
sort of doubled down on it not being racist, which
Yeah.
I think was the worst part of all.
And then did it again.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, because they did the Bob Marley one. They also did, didn't they do one before that too? Or was that somebody else?
There have been a bunch since, and there was a bunch before.
And then they
so
did the yellow face one.
the yellow face one, which, yeah.
I mean, which basically just makes you look like.
It's racist and it's unoriginal. There are so many, if the idea is to contort people's faces in weird ways, making someone a different race seems like one of the least creative things you can do.
I have to say that looking at Snapchat's competitors, though, like one of them is called Snow, and it's like a Korean or Chinese app that has been doing this since before Snapchat. They've been doing some real crazy shit. Because it's not as popular as Snap in America, no one's called them out on their shit. And I feel like Snapchat seems to be borrowing some of their filter ideas from Snow.
I mean, maybe.
So it's possible. So maybe they did that in a way that, and they've seen success on the Snow app, so they were like, oh yeah, people will love it here too, and then think about the ramifications for an American audience, maybe.
Which is weird because it's run by a bunch of Americans.
Yeah.
Like,
They just didn't think.
Making people look like Mickey Rooney's character from Breakfast at Tiffany's is not acceptable under any circumstances. Like,
Okay, okay. Oh my gosh. I think we're good.
I just don't understand how they're so dumb. How anybody could be so fucking dumb.
Everyone on this list this year was pretty dumb. Everyone on our losers week was like needs to kind of sit back, think about what they've done.
Can we give them all a timeout? Can we put them in the corner? I would love to put Snapchat in the corner and just make them think about what they've done.
Sure. Yeah.
Have I officially scared Dana?
No.
She's just sitting there in complete silence
I don't
now.
think you scare anyone, Terrence. You know who's the biggest loser this year, though? Have we decided the winners and losers for Flame Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Who? Was it Gorman? Yeah.
It's Gorman and Trout.
Wait, who's the winner and who's
Gorman's
the
the
loser?
loser.
Yeah.
Gorman's the loser?
Yep.
Yes.
So we're gonna have them both on the podcast at CES.
Yes.
And Trout will dole out some form of punishment to Gorman.
Amazing.
We're working out the exact details of what that's going to be.
Amazing.
I have some ideas.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we get to start with a clean slate next year?
Yep.
Yes.
Post CES, the standing boards will restart.
Good.
We're going to change the way we do the scoring. I think something a little bit more.
Who was the second place?
I believe
Mona?
Mona.
Because she came on once and won.
What?
She came on one time.
What?
You thought it was you, Dana?
I thought it was someone who's like been on the podcast more than once.
Nope.
No.
She's only been on once, and therefore she was able to like maintain. Yeah, it's so the final standings are Chris Trout, Mona, Dana,
There you
Devindra,
go.
Velasco, Cherlynn, Nate, Michael.
I kicked Nate's ass. That's good. There we go.
Yep. So that's that.
Something to look forward to next year.
Yeah.
A better leaderboard. There we go. And
You mean a better leaderboard? You mean one where Cherlynn is ranking higher
or I will
than
just,
before?
Yeah, I'll just like
Okay.
sit out more
Yeah.
of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
So before we wrap up the last episode of 2016, Cherlynn, do you have any final thoughts?
I love y'all. Not really. Yeah.
Where can the fine people bother you and wish you a happy new year on the internet?
At Cherlynn Low on Twitter.
Dana, any parting thoughts for this year?
I will see you all in hell, and by hell I mean Las Vegas.
Yes, that is certainly hell.
The podcast will resume there.
Yep.
For now, I am at Dana Wollman on Twitter.
Yep. I also have no parting thoughts because my brain has stopped working. more
And
or
you've
less.
just shouted all your other thoughts.
did.
Yeah,
Just-
I mean, those are
Today.
my final thoughts. Are just
Yeah.
like
yeah.
just incoherent yelling. But yeah, you can find me on the internet. I'm at Terrence O'Brien. Lots of E's, no A's. Send us your feedback, questions, comments. Rate us on iTunes. Subscribe in your podcast player of choice. All of that fine nonsense. We will see you next week from the ground in Las Vegas for the wonderful
time of year.
Yeah,
CES.
for CES, it's gonna be a thing. We're gonna have all sorts of fun shit on the stage, though, including multiple episodes of the podcast.
No.
Multiple episodes.
Damn.
But before we go, I want to leave you with the comment of the week, which is also the understatement of the year from 11/11. 2016 is a bad year.
Oh, great.
Indeed.